kids. And the best part about that was always show and tell day. And it was a great learning moment for a lot of these kids. So I brought my show and tell for today. I brought this. I've had this brush since a time when I actually had hair, and it's never failed me. The bristles don't fall out. It doesn't get discolored. It doesn't smell really bad. It's just wonderful. It's my brush with greatness.
Oh, wow.
I know you're rolling your eyes and you say every time the guy gets on a podium, he's got a bad joke to tell you. But it's an introduction. Because if you were to ask, and I do this kind of thing, I not only joke about it, but if I'm in an airport lounge, I'll strike up a conversation and I'll bring up questions for my neighbor. And I'll say, have you ever had any brushes with greatness? And they immediately have an answer. I know my Aunt Christina, I think that every occasion she was around people, she talked about the time that she took a train ride. Maybe it was her only train ride in her adult life. And Nat King Cole sat next to her. And she was so proud of that moment. It was her brush with greatness. I had another man tell me that he was in the men's room at a large metropolitan train station, and two men in black suits came up behind him and said, "Sir, you're going to have to move on. Someone needs to use the room." And he didn't argue with them, and on his way out, he could see that it was Barack Obama waiting urgently to pass an ordinance. You know? So that's what most people mean by a brush with greatness. They usually think of it in terms of a brush with celebrity and of attending a concert that maybe was like on the smaller side, or seeing Julia Roberts in Macy's or something like that. But a brush with greatness really has to do with crossing paths, mostly unexpectedly, with somebody who really has an impact on your life. And I could probably pick out a few names on my list that I will never forget, and that I consider myself extremely fortunate. But here I am, 9 months into this new experiment in Rock Hall, Maryland, and the people that are here, most of the people who come here regularly, talk about this man named Tom McHugh, who came along, and apparently he knew a number of people here. He had a history here. Is that right, Paul? And he had an idea. He had a dream. And the dream started and then kind of snowballed. And along the way, people just kind of joined ranks with him. And we're just so taken, not only with his personal charm and charisma, but what he was able to accomplish in this small harbor town on the other side of the bay. And you people are so fortunate to have had that brush with greatness.
Yes, we are.
And that was 25 years ago that this experiment in this little, I don't know what it was, Blockbuster Video, I don't know what it was. But it still has that same kind of hum. It still has that same kind of energy, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
Good.
But I want to now turn things over to my friend Paul Wart, a friend of Tom's who goes way back with him. And remember, think about your brushes with greatness. Okay?
Hi. Speak up. Okay, so speak up.
Yell at us.
I'm here to share with you a little bit of the Tom McHugh that I knew and loved for many years. Dr. Thomas Francis McHugh, Dr. McHugh, Mr. McHugh, Tom, or as I came to call him, Tommy. He came to Washington College in 1967, which was my senior year. Although I never knew him on campus, I never had any of his classes. It wasn't long before I met him in town where he had engulfed himself with some of the townies. Sonny Esselton,
Oh, yeah.
Vince Raymond, Jack Schroeder, Carter Stanton, and Mary Jean Hudson. He became very fond of the town, but that wasn't quite enough. He had a drawing to Rock Hall, and as he traveled into Rock Hall and found his way around, he met a legend of Rock Hall, Mr. Stanley Van Zandt. He was a local waterman, boat builder, owner of a marina, and just a plain good old person. And Tom found Mr. Stanley, and as Mr. Stanley would say often, because his marina and his boatyard and his home were all in Long Cove, and he had a porch with rocking chairs, and Mr. Stanley's classic line was, "Come and sit a spell." Well, it was during those few and many sit-a-spells that Tom found some of the wisdom and the local culture. And through that, he found an affinity for the water and had Mr. Stanley build his first of many wooden workboats. His first boat was an 18-foot bateau named Miss Pearl, after Mr. Stanley's wife. Tom traveled in many of the wooden workboats that he had over the years through the Eastern Shore and the Chesapeake Bay and many of its rivers and little places in nowhere. Each of those places, Tom was able to immerse himself into the local communities, the watermen, and get to know these places, and the people embraced him. He was just that charismatic. He loved meeting all these people. He loved learning their culture, becoming a part of their life, and went back often to these places. He had, over the years, started in the summer, 2-week boat trips with his friend Carter Stanton. And he and Carter took their workboats and many of their friends, some of whom are in the room tonight, and did 2-week trips up and down the Eastern Shore into all the little hidey holes, places you might not go, some that you would, but always found that traveling with his banjo, his harmonica, anchoring out, playing, all of us singing and whatever, we would find people would come in their boats. They would hear the music, they would be drawn to the boats, and a lot of them became lifetime friends. We had one trip that would go, it became an annual. It happened by chance in a place called Dixon Creek. And there, hearing us all, some of the, I can't look at some of the people. Some stories I'm not able to tell you. My lips are sealed. I will share some. Anyway, the local watermen heard us, and they came and they joined the boat and joined in with the singing and all, and partied with us and spent, a good deal into the evening, even though they had to get up early and work in the morning. And they would come back every year. We'd let them know when we were coming. They got so they knew when we were coming, and then they would bring us their local catch and share with us whatever. So they became a part of us. Another place that we loved going was to
That other place.
no. Hooper's Island, sorry, where we met Chan Rapon, whose family was...
Ripon. If you're from Dorchester County, it's Ripon.
Well, I'm not from Dorchester. Thank you, Muffy. In any case, whatever you call him, his family was of Hooper Island, legendary. Chan came down and met us at the boats, and feeling like we were good folk, gave us access to the indoor pavilion area if we wanted to use it, whatever. Walked us around the island, pointing out different things. And one of the classic lines I remember, he pointed to one house and he said, "That's the house where I was got." On that trip, that first trip,
You know those people.
we could hear, and Chan also had a crab picking house there, and we could hear the women in the crab picking house singing, beautiful voices, a cappella, just singing spirituals, whatever. And we quietly approached, and as we stood at the doorway and just even looking in, not going in, you could see that the one woman who seemed to be the leader kind of looked up, put her head down, stopped singing, and the rest stopped singing. We just stood there and looked because Chan had said, "You're welcome to go look." Well, Tom took it upon himself to go back to the boat very quietly without telling any of us. He came back strumming the banjo and started just humming, strumming. Pretty soon the women looked up and they realized this music was coming, and we were probably good people. They started singing again. We sang with them. We went in through the house, and it was again one of those beautiful memories that Tom created. His harmonica and his banjo, that's what drew the people. Always the educator, mentor, entertainer, always. Whatever he did, it involved that. He found that his spirit, even though it traveled around, his spirit remained here. Even though he left for a while to teach at Vassar, he never was gone for longer than a month. He would always come back, kept his home here, kept his boats here, kept his many friends here over the years. His love of the community and the water was reflected in the songs that he wrote, played, and sang. This place became a part of him. And he learned the wisdom of the water and the dance of the Eastern Shore. And it's here in Rock Hall that he left his heart and spirit.
Margaret, come up and say a few words.
Oh, Lord, yes. No, I did not get prepped. Hi, y'all. It so pleases me to have this opportunity tonight to introduce the artist and the benefactor who is going to allow this stage to always reflect Tom in live stream. How about that? So press, Janet Brandon, Press Harding, by the way, Hooper's Island. He probably knows how to. Please unveil this lovely thing. The two of you. Yeah, you
Only if you want to. Just me, grab that in.
You grab that end, you grab that end, and ought to come down, and I hope it doesn't all
Just pull, baby.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't all for this lovely thing and dedicated to this lovely man. So, let's party.
Thank you.
Let's go dance.
I'm such a